This is Plant-Based Briefing, Busting Nutrition Myths, How Plant-Based Diets Are Healthy for Children and Families, by Isabel Lu at the Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles with permission on plant-based, compassionate, and eco-friendly topics. I'm a voiceover artist in my day job, and you can find me at plantpoweredvo.com. I voice mostly explainer videos, commercials, telephone answering systems, corporate videos, that type of thing. That's what pays the bills, but I do this podcast as my passion project. I love researching all of the information that comes out about plant-based and vegan living. And being a voiceover artist, having the equipment and the home studio, it was a natural fit to be able to share it with you in an audio format. Today's article is from the Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. It's a nonprofit whose mission is to promote optimal nutrition through science-based education, advocacy, and research. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Busting Nutrition Myths, How Plant-Based Diets Are Healthy for Children and Families, by Isabel Lu at nutritionstudies.org. Nutrition can be a controversial topic. Doctors, researchers, and media outlets seem to praise and ridicule all types of diet patterns, including keto, paleo, and even whole food plant-based diets for general health. And when it comes to parenting and childhood health recommendations, things get even more complicated. Parents are eager to learn how to optimize the health and well-being of their children, but sifting through contradictory research can be a serious time commitment. And while several prominent medical experts work to distill information down into understandable videos and articles for the public, few focus on childhood nutrition. Luckily, Dr. Reshma Shah and registered dietitian Brenda Davis's newest book, Nourish, the Definitive Nutrition Guide for Families, serves as a one-stop resource for families looking to dive deep into the science of a whole food plant-based diet, as well as provide quick tips and recipes to satisfy children and adults alike. Most importantly, before diving into the how, Davis and Dr. Shah explore the why, part of which is dispelling major myths that the public holds about plant-based diets and childhood. Myth number 1. Plant-based diets put children and families at risk of nutritional deficiencies. One main hesitation for families to adopt a plant-based diet is the fear of not getting adequate amounts of key nutrients without consuming meat and dairy. For children especially, adequate amounts of calories, protein, fat, vitamins, and minerals are essential to proper cognitive and physical development. However, multiple studies have shown that children who consume vegetarian and vegan diets have adequate nutrient intake and growth compared to reference populations. Additionally, Dr. Shah notes that several reputable pediatric and nutrition organizations not only support the consumption of plant-based diets during pregnancy, infancy, and childhood, but also say that appropriately planned vegetarian diets are not only safe for children, but may provide certain health advantages, including the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Canadian Pediatric Society, the British Dietetic Association, the Australian Dietary Guidelines, and the Italian Society for Human Nutrition. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics does specify that vegetarian and vegan diets should be well planned to meet the needs of infants, children, and mothers. But as Dr. Shah and Davis also emphasize, all diets, including those that contain meat and dairy, should be well planned in order to ensure adequate intake of energy and nutrients to support growth and development. Therefore, the myth of inadequacy from a plant-based diet is no greater or more prevalent than any other pattern of eating. Myth number 2. Cow's milk is essential to build strong bones in children. A common concern for parents is getting their children adequate calcium on a plant-based diet in order for them to build strong bones. The current U.S. Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that children consume 2 to 3 servings of dairy per day. These recommendations are based on rudimentary studies that determined how much milk was needed to replace daily calcium losses. However, high dairy intake has not been associated with beneficial health outcomes. Additionally, countries with the highest consumption of dairy also have the highest frequency of bone fractures. And with 70% of the global population being lactose intolerant, unable to digest the sugar lactose in milk, it seems implausible to assume that dairy is the one superior source of calcium for humans. So where should parents look for good sources of calcium for their children? Dr. Shaw and Davis recommend consuming what many cultures have been consuming for centuries: calcium-set tofu, sesame seeds, and dark leafy greens. Fortified plant-based milks and orange juices are also reliable sources of calcium. However, calcium is only one part of the story. Dr. Shaw and Davis also note that exercise, sun exposure, and adequate intake of vitamin K, vitamin C, and folate are all crucial to good bone health. Myth number 3, a whole food plant-based diet will provide all necessary nutrients for growth and development. While undoubtedly a whole food plant-based diet provides adequate nutrition for growth and development, in our modern society, all diets need to be monitored for specific nutrients. Vitamin B12, a vitamin not produced by either animals or plants, is made by microorganisms in the soil. However, due to modern agricultural practices, there are few reliable plant-based sources of B12. Thus, it is important for plant-based eaters to supplement their diet with B12-fortified foods, such as fortified plant-based milks, cereals, and some brands of nutritional yeast. B12 supplements are also a great option. Furthermore, both children and adults are spending more and more time indoors. Sun exposure to our skin triggers our bodies to create vitamin D. However, the further one lives from the equator, the more difficult it is for their body to produce vitamin D. In fact, during the winter months, the sun's angle makes it near impossible for a body to produce vitamin D in the northern hemisphere, anywhere above Dallas, Texas. So Dr. Shaw and Davis recommend including fortified plant milks, fortified orange juices, or a vitamin D3 supplement. More than just an encyclopedia. Nourish, the definitive nutrition guide for families, is so much more than the average plant-based nutrition book. Dr. Shaw and Davis not only distill complex nutrition information into easily understandable chapters for parents and individuals, but the authors also provide practical advice and recipes to put the information into practice. A major takeaway is that yes, a whole food plant-based diet is one of the best things a parent can give to their children, but health and well-being is so much more than that. Exercise, building relationships, and spending time with family are just as important to a child's cognitive and physical development as what they eat. Because what is health without happiness, and what is happiness without enjoyment of food and family? You just listened to Busting Nutrition Myths: How Plant-Based Diets Are Healthy for Children and Families by Isabel Lu at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and this is a fantastic book. I have a copy myself. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, along with a link to the original post, which is what I always include in the show notes. And I also have some links in the show notes on how you can support the podcast. One is to simply share it with others, or you can recommend the podcast on your social media. And of course, follow or subscribe to the show wherever you listen to it. And you can also buy vegan and plant-based merchandise on my website, plantbasedbriefing.com/shop. And 10% of proceeds of merchandise go to a local farmed animal sanctuary, Changing Hearts Farm. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.